One of the lengthy but important exchanges. Again, we're joined by Candy Crowley, also CNN's Joe Johns, who took part in tonight's debate, along with us Time Magazine's senior political analyst Mark Halpern and KIRO radio talk show host Carl Jeffers, who's also a contributor at the Seattle Times. Joe, Carl Jeffers, your takeaway.
Well, the first thing I would say is that there's an old axiom in American politics. If you have three people running for the same position, if two of them start going against each other, it always benefits the third one. And I believe that actually tonight was John Edwards' best performance, and actually he came out better than he has in any other debate. And one of the reasons is because I think that there are a lot of Democrats, let alone mainstream Americans, who were turned off by this personal animosity between Senator Clinton and Barack Obama, and that benefited John Edwards. Now, the idea of a sort of tag team match, and it reminds me of the debate with Ross Perot and with Bill Clinton and George Herbert Walker Bush. And afterwards, President Bush said, yeah, I was there at that tag team match the other night, but it wasn't exclusively Edwards and Obama after Clinton. At times, it was, in fact, Edwards and Obama, and at other times it was Edwards and Clinton. So it wasn't entirely just ganging up on Obama. But I do think a couple strategic things. One, Obama clearly felt strategically it was to his benefit to try to link Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, that he was running against both of them at the same time. Two, Hillary Clinton clearly strategically felt that what she wanted to do was not so much run to win in South Carolina, because I think Obama wins in South Carolina. She's conceded that. What she wanted to do was to run for the rest of the country, and she got her most positive response on health care, and she was campaigning in New York and California, not South Carolina. But Edwards clearly came out very well tonight, but unfortunately for him, I think he still comes in third in the primary, but he certainly helped himself, and I believe he now, even if he comes in third, as a result of his performance tonight, can keep going to the convention where he may still have a role to play.
We're going to continue with our panel later on. Carl Jeffers, Mark Halpern, Joe Johns, Candy Crowley. We're also going to talk to Senator John Edwards. And we've got our panel. Candy Crowley is standing by, Joe Johns as well, Mark Halpern from Time Magazine as well, and Carl Jeffers in Los Angeles. Candy, John Edwards actually came to Senator Clinton's defense in this one. Do you think these charges that he doesn't stand up for tough issues, does that stick? I mean, it's been around for a while.
Well, I think, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily look at it as coming to Senator Clinton's defense. I mean, John Edwards is fighting a two-front war here. If he can tamp down Obama's chances here, he sees himself as the anti-Hillary candidate. Now, whether or not that's a fantasy depends on who you talk to. But so I wouldn't see it necessarily as pro-Hillary so much as trying to get, in fact, into the debate. Having said that, you're right, Obama's present votes have come up a couple of times. I think it's one of those things that sort of voters, you know, it comes into the ethos maybe, but voters don't quite get. It has to do with the Illinois state legislature and how it works. But it was a good, if he's picking on their votes, as John Edwards pointed out, it's fair to pick on his. So I think that overall point is made without the intricacies of the argument.
Carl Jeffers from KIRO Radio, also a contributor to the Seattle Times. You talked earlier about John Edwards rising above the fray and benefiting from that, you thought. But Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are in a tough fight right now for African-American votes in South Carolina. 5 days till the primary. Did tonight's debate change anything?
I don't think it changed anything in the African-American community, Anderson, because the African-American community, even if they did not like the fissure between Obama and Clinton and thought that it got too far, they still will support Obama. And every time Hillary tried to defend herself, it looked as if they felt that that was an attack. So they will still continue to support Obama. Where Hillary helped herself was, I think, among white voters who may have felt that she was, in fact, making positive points on the actual issues. But I think Candy makes an excellent point that it's not so much that Edwards was trying to join Hillary against Obama. Edwards is trying to stake his own claim. And remember, Hillary leads in delegates right now. Hillary leads in the national poll. So if Edwards can make inroads because Hillary and Obama are fighting, he can become the anti-Hillary candidate and have a greater role. So I do think that, in fact, in the end, you're right, Anderson, it makes no difference. Edwards finishes third in South Carolina, but he has helped himself nationally, and Hillary was running for the national campaign tonight, and Obama was running to win South Carolina.
Mark Halperin, do you agree with that?
I agree with that totally. I think that's spot on. Time and again, you saw Hillary Clinton say things that either would play badly potentially in South Carolina or not be understood necessarily here in the context of this primary. But as Carl said, she's thinking about Super Tuesday. What are her strengths? Not this primary, where her campaign is still worried about her, how she does here. Her strengths are her standing in the national polls and her ability to accumulate delegates. And her strength right now is, I think the Clinton campaign's gotten at least a little bit inside Barack Obama's head. He is taking on this fight of fighting both Clintons. I think in South Carolina, that may do all right. I think nationally, that's a danger for him. It gets him off his message, and the Clintons obviously are very happy with it. They're willing to keep this going for a good long while.
Right, the field narrows now. The landscape changes. 6 days before Super Tuesday, John Edwards ends his Democratic presidential bid, where he began it in New Orleans. And just hours from now, we're expecting Rudy Giuliani to exit the GOP race and endorse rival John McCain. We have a lot to talk about. Joining me now is CNN political editor, Mr. Mark Preston. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Conservative commentator Michelle Bernard. And from the advocacy group Independent Women's Voice, that's where she's from. And radio talk show host Mr. Carl Jeffers. He is a friend of the CNN newsroom. He's here a lot, a contributor to the Seattle Times. Thanks to all of you. Good to see all of you. Okay, so John Edwards drops out today. It has been sort of the endorsement battle. Who's going to get this endorsement? Who's going to get that endorsement? Our CNN person, I want to ask you this, Mark. Is this the endorsement that could tip the scale depending on who John Edwards endorses?
You know, I'm not sure if it will tip the scales necessarily, Don, but it would certainly, it's sought out. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama have both been trying to reach out to John Edwards, trying to get him to come to his side. He certainly has a lot of supporters out there. And in fact, last week, Don, in Myrtle Beach, after the CNN Congressional Black Caucus debate, Hillary Clinton, John Edwards had a private conversation backstage, and it wasn't just a passing hello. So this has been going on, I think, for a couple of weeks.
Carl, I got a very interesting note about from you. We were talking about endorsements the other day, and the Kennedys endorsing Barack Obama and this whole fight over who's going to get which endorsement here. And then we talked about the California Congresswoman endorsing Hillary Clinton. You find that more interesting that Maxine Waters would endorse Hillary Clinton than you find Ted Kennedy endorsing Barack Obama?
Well, I think, Don, and it's great to be here with you again, that the interesting thing about it is that, in fact, as Ted Kennedy represents the Democratic establishment in America, certainly the old lion of the liberal tradition, the white Democratic establishment in America seemingly is edging towards Barack Obama. But the reality is right now, in terms of a nose count, the majority, not by many, but by a few, the majority of the Congressional Black Caucus is lined up so far with Hillary Clinton. And that's a very interesting dynamic that most of America is not aware of. And the Maxine Waters endorsement dramatizes the fact that among black establishment political figures in America, among black business leaders in America who are Democratic versus some who are more conservative, that there is a very strong resonance with Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
And I would go back to your other point. The media certainly hasn't demonstrated any love affair with Hillary Clinton.
Carl, we've got to move on because I want to talk about the Republicans here, because Rudy Giuliani obviously dropping out of the race as well, but he is making his endorsement known. He's saying he's going to back John McCain in this. But both of these guys, especially when it comes to the Republican Party, they're really not the Republican Party's poster boys, are they? And, I mean, who would have thunk this? I mean, John McCain's struggling here.
Well, you know, John McCain comes out of Florida as the front runner in the Republican primary, and yet he's got problems raising money and has to use his win in Florida to try to raise money to get into Super Tuesday. Mitt Romney comes out of Florida #2, but he still has the money to immediately start campaigning, and because he did not pick and choose which primaries to run in, he still has the opportunity to amass enough delegates that even if he's not the front runner, he will be a major player. And as they move to the conservative primaries in the South on Super Tuesday, the dilemma for the Republicans, Don, is that the conservative Republicans like Mitt Romney's positions, but they're concerned that he's flip-flopped on the issues.
Okay.
But with John McCain, they think he's just been wrong all along.
Okay.